The dangerous criminal evaded the police and then killed him in the notorious criminal. The towering walls of Black Ridge Maximum Security Prison loomed over the barren landscape, wrapped in layers of barbed wire. Spotlights cut through the darkness, scanning the yard as armed guards patrolled in synchronized shifts. Inside, the prison buzzed with an eerie stillness, only broken by the occasional clang of steel doors and distant murmurs of inmates. Leon Vargas sat on the edge of his cot, his piercing eyes locked on the cracked ceiling. His name carried weight both inside and outside these walls. He wasn't just another inmate. He was a legend, a criminal mastermind whose reputation was built on impossible heists, cold-blooded murders, and escapes that defied logic. For years, he had orchestrated chaos from the shadows. He never left loose ends, never trusted anyone, and never got caught until now. His last job had gone sideways. A sting operation led by Detective Ryan Carter had brought him down, ending his reign of terror. Now he was locked away for life. No parole, no second chances. But Leon never believed in endings. The plan begins. The prison cafeteria was alive with the dull hum of conversations. Trays clattered, inmates exchanged whispers, and guards watched with sharp, untrusting eyes. Leon moved through the crowd, his steps calculated, his expression unreadable. He wasn't there for food, he was there to plant seeds. At a corner table, a burly man with a jagged scar across his cheek eyed him warily. Miguel Torres, a notorious smuggler, controlled the underground trade inside Blackridge. Leon slid onto the bench across from him. "Need something, Vargas?" Miguel muttered, stabbing at his food. Leon leaned in slightly. "I hear you've got people on the outside, people who can make things happen." Miguel smirked. "Depends on what you need, and what you're willing to give." A slow grin spread across Leon's face. "I'm not here to bargain. I'm here to tell you that by tomorrow, you're going to do something for me. Or you're not going to wake up in this prison." Miguel's smirk faded. He knew better than to test Leon Vargas. Execution of the escape midnight. The prison was silent, save for the occasional footsteps of patrolling guards. Inside his cell, Leon sat on his cot, his eyes locked on the small vent near the ceiling. He had spent weeks memorizing the patrol shifts, the blind spots in the security cameras, and the precise moment when the backup generator kicked in during the nightly power check. The second the lights flickered, he moved. With practiced efficiency, he pried open the vent and slipped inside, crawling through the narrow ductwork. Sweat dripped down his face as he maneuvered through the maze of metal, the sounds of guards just below him. A single wrong move, a single noise, and it would be over. Reaching the maintenance corridor, he dropped down silently. Ahead, the locked service exit stood between him and freedom. Miguel had done his part, disabling the alarm system just long enough for Leon to pass through unnoticed. Outside, the cold night air hit him like a wave. The prison's outer fence loomed ahead, topped with razor wire. He sprinted towards it, a stolen guard uniform helping him blend into the shadows. With calculated precision, he scaled the fence, ignoring the sharp sting of metal cutting into his palms. By the time the sirens blared, Leon Vargas was already gone. Chaos unleashed. The prison yard erupted in chaos. Guards shouted orders, searchlights swept across the perimeter, and helicopters took to the sky. Inside the warden's office, Detective Ryan Carter stood over the radio, his jaw clenched. "Vargas is out," the warden said, his face pale. "How the hell did this happen?" Ryan didn't answer. He knew exactly what kind of man Leon was. This wasn't just an escape. It was the beginning of something far worse. The night was heavy with mist, as Leon Vargas moved swiftly through the thick underbrush. Every step was deliberate, every breath controlled. His escape had gone exactly as planned, but now came the real challenge: disappearing completely. Blackridge Prison was surrounded by Blackwood Forest, a vast and untamed wilderness stretching for miles. It was a double-edged sword. The police would hesitate to follow too deep into it, but if he wasn't careful, the forest itself could kill him. The distant wail of sirens faded behind him. He was getting closer to true freedom. Leon crouched near a stream, splashing cold water on his face. His mind ran through his next steps: find shelter, conserve energy, and avoid leaving a trail. He had studied this terrain before his arrest. If he could make it past the river valley undetected, he'd have a clear shot to the old railway tracks, where he could hop a freight train out of state. But getting there wouldn't be easy. The hunt begins. A dozen squad cars screeched to a halt near the forest's edge. Officers poured out, weapons drawn, eyes scanning the darkness. Floodlights cut through the trees, casting long, flickering shadows. Detective Ryan Carter stepped out of his unmarked vehicle, gripping his radio. "He's in there," he muttered. "I want perimeter teams at every major exit point. No one goes in alone. We flush him out, we take him down." The warden, still shaken from the prison break, approached. "You think he'll survive in there?" Ryan's jaw tightened. "This isn't just any fugitive. This is Leon Vargas. If anyone can survive in that hellhole, it's him." He didn't say what else was on his mind. He and Leon had a history, one that neither of them had forgotten. Survival of the fittest. The temperature dropped sharply as Leon pushed deeper into the wilderness. The trees grew thicker, their gnarled branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. The distant sounds of barking dogs told him the search teams weren't far behind. He needed to slow them down. Leon doubled back, deliberately stepping in a stream to mask his scent. He climbed up a jagged rock formation, careful not to disturb the loose stones, and from there, he watched flashlights flickered through the trees. The officers were moving methodically, but they were predictable. Leon smiled to himself. He would use that against them. The night was merciless. The wind howled through the trees, carrying the scent of rain. Leon pulled his stolen jacket tighter around himself. Hunger gnawed at his stomach. He hadn't eaten in almost a day. He spotted a rabbit darting through the undergrowth. His instincts kicked in. A sharpened rock, a quick throw, and the animal went limp. It wasn't much, but it would keep him going. Leon built a small fire in the cover of a hollowed-out tree. The flickering flames cast shadows over his face as he ate, his mind already planning his next move. He had evaded them for now, but Ryan Carter would never stop hunting him. A past that won't stay. Buried. Ryan stood at the edge of a ridge, staring into the darkness beyond. He wasn't just chasing a fugitive, he was chasing a ghost from his past. Years ago, Ryan had been an undercover cop, working inside one of Leon's operations. He had earned Leon's trust, gained access to his secrets, and then betrayed him in the final sting that led to his arrest. Leon had never forgiven him. And now, as Ryan listened to the radio chatter of officers searching the forest, he knew this was personal. Somewhere in the wilderness, Leon was waiting, and Ryan had a feeling the real hunt hadn't even begun yet. The moon cast pale light through the twisted branches of Blackwood Forest. The air was thick with tension, every rustling leaf carrying the possibility of an ambush. Leon Vargas moved like a ghost, his every step calculated. He wasn't just running anymore. He was hunting. The police had entered the forest, thinking they were closing in on their fugitive. But Leon knew these woods better. He had spent months studying them before his arrest. Now he wasn't just escaping. He was playing a game, false trails and dead ends. The first officer to fall for the trap was a rookie. He found a muddy footprint leading toward a ravine. Excited, he radioed in. "I've got something. Looks fresh. Headed east toward the cliffs." Within minutes, multiple officers converged on the area. They followed the trail carefully, weapons drawn, their breath fogging in the cold air. The footprints led straight toward a steep drop-off. Then they stopped. No more prints. No signs of anyone climbing down. Just silence. One officer took a hesitant step forward, and the ground gave way beneath him. Leon had set it up perfectly. The unstable earth crumbled under their weight, sending two officers tumbling into the ravine below. They weren't dead, but they were out of the chase. From a hidden vantage point, Leon smirked. 2 down. More to go. The hunter and the hunted detective Ryan Carter examined the broken ground. He wasn't like the rookies. He knew Leon better than anyone. This wasn't an accident. Leon was leading them in circles. Ryan took a deep breath, forcing himself to ignore the chatter in his radio. He needed to think like Vargas. He scanned the trees, the brush, the positioning of the footprints. And then it hit him. Leon wasn't running away. He was drawing them in. A cold chill ran down Ryan's spine. Doubt creeps. In hours past, the search teams were getting restless. Officers whispered among themselves, their nerves fraying. "He's toying with us," one muttered. Another kicked the dirt. "Maybe he's already gone. Maybe we're just chasing a ghost." Ryan clenched his jaw. That was exactly what Leon wanted them to think. He closed his eyes, filtering out the noise. He thought back to their last encounter, to the way Leon had always been 2 steps ahead. Ryan had spent years studying killers, but Leon Vargas wasn't just a killer, he was a strategist. And right now, Ryan was starting to feel like a piece on his chessboard. A psychological battle. The officers continued forward, but the tension was suffocating. Leon's traps weren't just physical, they were mental. A bloody piece of torn clothing was left near a fallen tree, making them believe he was injured. But there was no blood trail. A campfire was still smoldering, but there were no footprints leading away from it. Every clue led to more uncertainty. Every move made them question what was real. Ryan exhaled slowly. Leon was getting into their heads. He turned to his team. "No more following his trail. No more reacting. We changed the game." But deep inside, Ryan wondered, was it already too late? It was heavy, thick with the scent of damp earth and pine. The forest stretched endlessly in every direction, but Ryan Carter knew this was the place. Leon Vargas had led him here, deeper and deeper into the wilderness, shedding officers along the way with his mind games and traps. Now, it was just the two of them. Ryan's heartbeat pounded in his ears as he stepped into a small clearing. The moonlight illuminated a figure standing near the edge of a rocky drop-off. Leon. He was waiting. A battle of wits. Leon turned slowly, his expression calm, almost amused. "You're persistent, Carter," he said, voice smooth and deliberate. "I almost thought you wouldn't make it." Ryan raised his gun, keeping his breathing steady. "It's over, Leon. No more running." Leon smirked. "Running? Is that what you think this was?" He gestured toward the darkness behind him. "I could have disappeared any time I wanted, but I didn't." "Why do you think that?" As Ryan's grip tightened. He knew Leon well enough to recognize the game he was playing. Keep him talking, make him doubt himself. "You've got nowhere left to go," Ryan said. "Surrender, and maybe you make it out of this alive." Leon chuckled. "Alive? And go back to a cage?" He shook his head. "No, Carter. That's not how this ends." The first strike. The tension shattered in an instant. Leon moved first, lunging toward Ryan with lightning speed. Ryan fired, a single shot, but Leon was already twisting out of the way. The gun was knocked from Ryan's hands, skidding across the dirt. Leon threw a punch. Ryan barely dodged, countering with an elbow to the ribs. Leon grunted but didn't slow down. They crashed into the ground, rolling over roots and rocks, fists flying in the darkness. Each strike was fueled by years of history, by betrayal, by unfinished business. Ryan gasped as Leon's forearm pressed against his throat, cutting off his air. "You should have let this go," Leon whispered. With a desperate surge of strength, Ryan threw him off, both men staggering to their feet. The turning point. Leon wiped blood from his lip, grinning despite the pain. "You know," he said, circling Ryan like a predator, "this was never about running. It was about proving something." Ryan's chest heaved, proving what Leon's eyes darkened, that I can always be 1 step ahead. Then he moved again, faster, more brutal, a knee to Ryan's ribs, a punch that split his brow. Ryan stumbled, vision blurring, but he wasn't out yet. He waited for the right moment. As Leon came in for the final blow, Ryan sidestepped, grabbing a loose branch and swinging it hard. Crack. Leon went down. For the first time, he looked vulnerable. Ryan picked up his gun, aiming it at Leon's chest. Both men were breathing hard, locked in an unspoken war of wills. But neither moved. Uncertain fate. The wind howled through the trees. Leon lay on his back, staring up at the sky. Then, slowly, he laughed. "Go on," he said, voice rough. "End it." Ryan's finger hovered over the trigger. He had spent years chasing this man, years dreaming of this moment. But now that it was here, could he pull the trigger? Leon's smirk widened. "You can't, can you?" Ryan clenched his jaw. His hand shook slightly. Then, a sound in the distance. The faint hum of helicopters. Backup was coming. Ryan exhaled, lowered the gun. Leon's smile faded. A second later, he moved, and the forest stood still, the towering trees watching like silent sentinels. Ryan Carter's breath came in ragged gasps, his grip tightening around the gun. Leon Vargas lay on the ground, blood smeared across his face, but his eyes still burned with defiance. Then, movement. Leon lunged, kicking up dirt as he knocked Ryan's gun aside. A gunshot rang out, the flash illuminating the trees for a split second before the darkness swallowed them again. Ryan staggered back. Pain shot through his side, a grazing wound. He gritted his teeth, ignoring the sting, but Leon was already on him. They crashed into the dirt, grappling for control, the struggle raw and vicious. Leon's hands closed around Ryan's throat, squeezing. Ryan's vision blurred. His hands clawed at Leon's grip, but the strength was draining from his limbs. He tried to reach for his holster, but Leon was faster. Another gunshot, then silence. The fatal blow. Ryan's body went still. Leon breathed heavily, the gun smoking in his hand. He watched as Ryan's eyes, once filled with relentless determination, faded into lifelessness. For years, Ryan had chased him, hunted him, and now it was over. Leon knelt beside the body, pressing 2 fingers to Ryan's neck. No pulse. It was done. He exhaled, wiping blood from his hands. Then, calmly, he pulled out a knife and carved something into the trunk of a tree nearby. A message, a signature. Then, without another word, he vanished into the forest. The aftermath. Dawn broke over Blackwood Forest. Helicopters hovered overhead. Officers combed through the trees, their radios crackling with urgent voices. They found Ryan Carter's body near the ridge, lying in the dirt, his gun just out of reach. Near him, on the bark of a tree, were 2 words, scratched deep into the wood. "Still ahead, the hunt continues." The authorities sealed off the area. Dogs were brought in, teams spread out, but there was no trace of Leon Vargas. He had disappeared, like a phantom into the wilderness. And as the sun rose over the blood-stained forest, one thing became clear. This wasn't the end, it was just the beginning.